In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome back to Marketing in the Age of AI. I appreciate you being here. I'm your host, Emanuel Rose, and today we're joined by Mark A. Hopkins, a multifaceted thought leader at the intersection of artificial intelligence and digital innovation. Mark is a brain developer at IBM and the creator of influential media outlet, or he may have been a brain developer at IBM. We'll check in with Mark and get some clarity on that. He's also a former political prisoner and a crypto anarchist whose work has had significant impact across various sectors, including decentralized organizations like FreeOps DAO and Ukraine DAO. And his extensive background in technology and media, Mark brings a unique perspective on how AI is shaping our marketing strategies, our society, and our lives. Mark, thanks so much for spending some time with me today, and feel free to correct anything I got inaccurate in your bio.
I mean, that's pretty spot on. I'm no longer with IBM, but I was with them for a better part of a decade.
Yeah, I got you. Cool. Well, it's amazing to meet someone who's been doing this for a long time, been able to kind of see it on the horizon, and then seeing it crest, and then have a perspective maybe of where we're headed with this AI transformation. And I guess from your perspective, where are we in this process of integration for kind of like on a full scale? Let's say robots and driverless cars every day, from where we are now.
Oh, closer than we've ever been. I think. I mean, we felt like we were being perpetually on the cusp of, I don't know, short circuit or Terminator, depending upon how optimistic you are as a person. For, I would say, probably 20 years, I was excited about this new AI chatbot framework called Alice back in the early 2000s, and that felt like it was a quantum leap forward from ELIZA-based stuff. And then you had, all the work that they did it within the Watson group for IBM. That was, beating a grandmaster at chess, beating a Jeopardy champion. Like all these little things felt like they were quantum leaps forward, and they were. But that's the thing with an exponential curve. It just keeps logarithmically, exponentially expanding. And I think right now we're at a point where we're both simultaneously underwhelmed and overwhelmed. Because like if you go back to like the standard of what machine intelligence is, it's Alan Turing kind of set the stage with the idea of the Turing test, which was decades away from even possibly being thought about at the time. Just as long as a computer can convince a human that it's intelligent, it has achieved the threshold of intelligence. And as we discovered when Photoshop was invented, that we quickly as humans become savvy to what is fake and what is real, because our brains are pattern matching machines. And so now,
and our survival is dependent on it.
Right. And so, I mean, I know everybody listening, regardless of how technical they are, if they spend any time on the internet whatsoever, has become really, really good at detecting when AI made something, whether it's a video or a text block or not. And this would have like fooled anybody, 100 years ago. Like this would have been like a sci-fi show 100 years ago. So, the standard is always, we're past the uncanny valley, but only just, that's the best way to put it, I think.
Well, yeah, I think that's interesting, is that visually visually we're still able to detect a lot of it. I definitely, there are times when I'm like, I really have to dig in. And like, I got to watch something to see if it's humans or if it's AI. But I think the interesting innovation that's happened just in the last week was the uh, Tesla cafe, right, where it's all being served by the robots. And I think, to me, that's one of the most exciting things about what's happening in terms of uh, the care of a robot, and that concept of being able to have very simple domestic duties or not simple domestic duties taken care of, especially in the aging population, where that we know the demographics have shifted to the point where we don't have enough humans to take care of the other humans, and that a robot can deal with a lot more weight than a person can, and in terms of managing home health and things like that. So that part I'm excited about. The military robot dogs, not so excited about that. But what's your take on the robotics and what's happening with that?
I'm excited. I'm like, obviously I'm a nerd. Obviously I've been a nerd for much longer than my children care to admit publicly.
Right.
But so like, the dream, the Star Trek dream was always like, Lieutenant Commander Data from Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
And we're so close to that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, in a lot of meaningful ways, the like a Unitree G1, which is kind of like I wouldn't call it the Chinese knockoff because they kind of got there independently, but the Chinese knockoff of the Tesla robot is
Right.
16 grand. You know, It-
Yeah.
that's a small. It's a used car right now, and at the rate that it's dropping in price, we're talking about like the rate is going to cost about as much as a laptop at mass production. Like
Yeah.
it could be like 3,000-4,000
For
bucks
sure.
in a couple of years.
Right.
So that is a that's an unbelievable. My 16-year-old geeky programmer self is freaking out. Like at the possibility of I can conceivably write some software and make an intelligent robot that I can hold a conversation with and have it, hey, go take out the trash, and it understands that without me having to go, okay, okay, Google, okay, Siri, make do the
Right.
thing using special language or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. I guess you and I are aligned in our nerdiness on that one. So I think it's cool to take away some of these tasks that are time consuming or that are dangerous, and have the machines do them in the physical space as well as in the digital space. So um, well, let's shift and talk about the work that you're doing in the PR distribution and PR creation right now using the AI tools. Explain that.
Sure. Well, so I mean, I've had like 1,000 careers over my life that are all kind of like powered by technology. For a good decade and a half, I was a tech journalist, and broke a lot of stories that were somewhat important back in my days at Mashable, SiliconANGLE, and theCUBE. But
Nice.
I'm pretty adept at marketing and adept at the PR side of things. I know what it is. I've dealt with it from both sides of the fence. But this last 9 months, our group has been building essentially a self-hostable version of ChatGPT or a self-hostable version of Claude, where you can run
Okay.
everything on Gridiron that you can control up to and including the model. And so one of the first I guess, use cases of this that we've put out is essentially a PR company that's augmented by AI, which is to say, like, let's say you're doing PR and you are, you're really trying to, get your clients placed at as many places as possible.
Yep.
Traditionally, you've got an army of low-paid interns that are listening to podcasts or reading articles or whatever to do the cold outreach. We created a series of agents that will basically listen to 10 hours of podcasts for each letter that it writes, right? Which is a human will never do.
Nice.
Right?
No, is mind numbing.
Right. Like I love podcasts, but like there's just not enough time in the day to listen to 10 hours of podcast to write a single like 300-word email. Right? If that.
Right. Yep.
So, and it basically, it knows the client. We basically train the model on the client, or create a RAG on the client. And then,
now what's a RAG?
It's a retrieval-augmented graph. It's for basically medium-term memory, stuff that's not stored in the model itself, but you still want the AI to have access to it.
Okay, so kind of like what Notebook LLM would be. You could create those
almost identical to that. Yeah, that's a form of a RAG. Okay. Also, if you use ChatGPT and like it says saving to memory, or you've customized it to tell it about you, you're adding to the ChatGPT RAG about you. So just a form of a database in memory. So we've created a RAG for each one of the clients that are serviced by the PR company, and then it will create a separate RAG that is for each one of the podcasts that we're maybe pitching them to. And that separate RAG is formed by, again, listening to 10 podcasts, transcribing it, indexing it, pulling out relevant quotes, doing a summary of each episode, and then going, okay, is this guest a good fit for this podcast? If so, why? Find the evidence and put it in an email. And then a human still looks at that email and edits it and sends it if it's good enough or if it's right on. And if it's not, it doesn't get sent, or maybe they make some changes or whatever.
Yeah, I love that you've obviously, with your experience, you've got human in a loop still, because that weirdness happens from the LLMs no matter how much you manicure them.
Oh, for sure.
So that's cool. Well, what are you seeing? I mean, what's the acceptance rate? What are you seeing that it makes it worth going through that process?
So we track it by opens. That's the best statistic of people that actually see the emails. It's like an 80% acceptance rate.
Insane. That's a massive
which
number.
how like I've never. I know from the journalist, it's like a 90%. Like I don't even open the email, or don't even finish reading the email rate. Whenever I used to do the journalism side of things, so I feel pretty good about it.
So it's building the subject line as well as the body of the email.
And again, it's like this is all suggested stuff, but like I found, I'm first of all, I am a huge proponent of like non-human in the loop systems. I think that's the best use case for AI, but I don't think we're quite there yet in all situations. But the best thing that I've personally benefited from with AI is getting from the blank page tyranny, right? And going from 0 to 1 is the most important thing that AI can do for me, because I'll probably look at it and go, oh no, that's like all wrong, and I'm going to rewrite the whole thing. But now I'm editing. I'm not just like staring at a blank screen with a cursor.
Yeah, and the ideation part, I agree, is amazing. Where you can say, here's the last 10 podcasts that I've guested or hosted, and pull for me, 6 quotes and 3 ideas for posts, and then getting that kind of heavy lifting done from existing content, even.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and that and I guess that's the other part of the loop. At the end of the loop, like any PR company, you want your clippings. So of course we're using a lot of the same tools. I'm sure that you and other podcasters are, where we're creating social, social clips, social little nuggets from the appearances and whatnot. So.
Yeah, I mean, that is the power of the podcasting, is the content marketing takes care of itself almost.
For sure.
I mean, you have enough content probably for the next 300 years.
Yeah, just going back through my old archives for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are you seeing right now that you're most excited about, that's kind of on the next 3 to 4 month cusp of really starting to be good?
Starting to be good is video. And it's scary, I think, for a lot of folks that make their bones in video. The stuff that's coming like from VO3, which I'm sure you've seen, that is at times difficult to distinguish from something that was, human created. That is, I think, the most, I would say both exciting and scary thing, just because it has the ability to affect a wide cross section of stuff. The way current social networks are structured, as far as the advertising algorithms are concerned, there's very little difference between AI created content in that category and human crafted stuff, which I think is unfortunate. Hopefully, this is the eternal techno optimist in me. Maybe this will push us back more towards open source, standards like podcasting and blogging, as opposed to these algorithm driven, social networks.
Yeah, where we have the decision-making power about what we're interested in and then going and curating it ourselves.
Right. Well, so think about it like this, right? So I've pitched this to a couple of people that are trying. I get like little consultancies and advisory gigs every once in a while. And there's one in particular, they were trying to do kind of like a news-based TikTok knockoff. And it didn't take off like they wanted to. So they were trying to figure out how they're going to pivot. And they were thinking about doing AI generated video. And I'm like, why do that when you've got the ability with AI to act as a curator rather than a creator? That's actually far more valuable right now, is to act as an AI curator. Have the AI, have the LLM parse through the data and figure out like how to deliver important information to the user that they deem as important, that isn't stepped on, it isn't propaganda, right? Like that's the hardest thing for some of us to do, is to be able to step outside of our confirmation bias bubbles and decide, what is good information versus what do we want to hear. Let's let a machine algorithm help us with that. Let's have the algorithms fight each other for our benefit, right? Like that's an easy application to write. From a programming perspective, and it's so much more valuable than just flooding the network with 1,000 posts an hour just to get some ad revenue.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that is probably the toughest thing for me as a person self-educating, which is, who is the speaker, and where did this story originate from? Like, who's actually making the news, and then who's reporting on it, and how many steps away am I from what actually happened, right? It's brutal.
No, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. And this is somebody, like, even when I got into journalism, which was, I guess, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, depending upon, when you say it was actually, when I started actually getting paid for it versus when I did it occasionally. And it's, in my lifetime, it's never been a way to make a living. Like, the only way that I made a living out of it was by becoming the CEO of a journalistic organization, or the COO of a journalistic organization that got wildly successful. The entire time we were building that, like for the first 5 years, I was making less than $40K a year, and it was my full-time gig, like 90 hours a week, So, and even today, like, the most prolific journalists I know are trust fund kids, and that's no way to run a society. Like, that's not good for us.
Right. I guess from my perspective, I want the news as unfiltered and unbiased as possible, which we know there's always bias, but as unbiased as possible, so that I can make it a grounded assessment myself.
Right. Yeah, you want that. But then, the issue with unfiltered means usually going to like a social media for a source, which means your algorithm is going to tilt it some way that's going to maximize ad revenue, not necessarily maximize truth. And then also you're dealing with the fire hose, right? So, like, this sounds bleak until you think, oh wait, AI solves all this. let's just do that,
Well, I wish you would write that program and let me subscribe to it, so I could have some choices in that, and then have it delivered.
Right. Well, it's on my list.
Okay, good. Well, you let me know when you want me to beta test it. I'll happily be the first paying user.
Right. I'm sending this to the guy at the startup. I'll send this clip right here to the guy at the startup. Is like, is this really what people want? And Manuel said yes. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a market for it, and it will not be a difficult market to find people who are looking looking to find what's happening and unfiltered as possible, and then make their own assessments. Those of us that still have critical thinking, that's what we're looking
right.
for. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, what about like in the next 10 years? What do you think? Where do you see us kind of crescendoing in this little bubble that we're in?
I think this is where I go from accurate predictions to wishful thinking, because I
Good. I love wishes. Yeah.
well, I mean, I think it could go a lot of ways. What I was, like I said before we hit the record button on this is, you know, there's a lot more ways that this whole AI revolution can go wrong than it can go right. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, every movie for the last 20 years about AI has been more or less a cautionary tale. Very few fairy tale stories. However, I still remain a techno optimist. But more importantly, I know that, or I don't know that. I like to think that if there's not enough people like me getting in there and getting involved, then there's an increased chance of this thing going south. The type of work that
Yeah.
I'm involved in, specifically in AI, has to do with allowing people to own their own data and own the whole stack. So the thing that Lore PR is based off of is a stack, an operating system for AI called Sanctum. And that allows you to manage the entire agent chatbot experience on a machine that you can control, including the model. So you can always use OpenAI or Anthropic's models, but you can also use your own. Why would you want to do that? I mean, look at what's going on right now. You got two reasons why. Number one, like there's these silly lawsuits, like what's going on with OpenAI right now, where a judge has said they cannot let you delete stuff that you want, right? And now any court can ask for a copy of your private chats, which maybe that's bad, maybe that's good. I think it's not good, right? I want to be able to have an expectation of privacy. The other thing is, I mean, right now they're kind of, these big AI companies are kind of being magnanimous and benevolent, but I mean, so was Google and Facebook,
In the beginning.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. No, we know where this is going. It's not news,
right,
right? Like it all sounds good. Eventually the private equity comes in and it all changes. So
exactly.
it totally makes
And so
sense.
I want to build an alternative to that. And I think, and this is the techno optimist part. This is the wishful thinking. I think my model is more inevitable than theirs because of what you mentioned earlier. These robots and these standalone things. I've worked with IBM for decades. Well, not for decades. I've worked for IBM over the main decade that they used their Watson stuff inside of those little SoftBank robots they used to walk around on wheels. And I've seen more demos than I can count that were created by actual in-house IBM engineers fail at a conference because it was relying on a cloud implementation of Watson rather than a local model. And you couldn't really run local. The best you could do for local is like a local area network on a big piece of gridiron on a server rack. But now we can run these things off of almost Raspberry Pis. So why are we relying on the cloud? Right?
Yeah, interesting. Yep. Well, I think that's interesting, and I'm with you as being the optimist. I'm my prayer is that we use this opportunity to have a second renaissance, and that you and I are freed up from drudgery and mundane activities, and that we have time to play the guitar and make oil paintings again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can tell I did that, right?
I was hoping you did
yeah.
that. Yeah. Well, Mark, I love having this conversation. I really appreciate your time and experience, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. if people want to get in touch with you and find out what you're doing, how do they do that?
Easiest way, I'm all over Twitter at Rizzn, and thislore.com is our website, so you can reach out to us via the little contact us link there, or rizzn.net. There's a little contact me form on there if you're not a Twitter user.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. Any last thoughts before we sign
No,
off?
you've given me a great forum to wax philosophical. I've my brain's empty. Got nothing else.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks again. And hold on for me while I close the show, and we'll say a proper goodbye. All right, you bet. Well, thanks to Mark for sharing his time and talking about how some of the positive things that can happen, should happen if we focus our energies together to make sure that the tools and the technology are focused in saving us time and making our lives easier. And my hope for you is genuinely that you are able to buy back 10 to 20 hours of your work week, and that you take that time to spend with your friends and your family, and that you get outside in nature and get away from the screens. Thanks for joining me today on Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or Emanuelrose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.